Welcome back. Today's objective analysis is about Attack on Titan. Let's get right into it. If you don't know already, I use 5 criteria to objectively analyze a series to determine how good it is, determine its overall rating. The 5 categories are as follows: characters, plot, world building, themes, and art/animation. For Attack on Titan, since the anime is technically not finished, I'm going to be focused on the manga. So obviously, if you guys don't know, manga spoilers will be up ahead. You have been warned. So let's start off with the plot. The plot of Attack on Titan is one of the best masterpieces that I personally have ever read. It has a story that starts out pretty similar to a casual shonen in terms of a character having a goal. They are going to accomplish their goal with crazy character development, crazy moments, and all that good stuff. It seems like Aaron's goal at the beginning of the story was to kill all Titans, and by the end of the story he would have accomplished said goal. But as we continue to read/watch Attack on Titan, we realize that it's not that simple. There is an underlying plot that slowly and steadily gets revealed throughout the story. We find out that the story is more complex than we initially thought. That the Marlians and the Eldians and their whole dynamic is a cycle of hatred that really truly can't be stopped without something dramatic happening. The development of Eren changes to where he starts out as the prime protagonist, the good guy that we follow, to arguably a villain and antagonist by the end of the series. A lot of twists and turns, a lot of different levels of the story gets revealed to the point where the ending is so dramatic and so controversial that a lot of people liked it and a lot of people, mostly the minority, the vocal minority, definitely hated it. It definitely gets held back for its controversial ending. For me personally, I thought it made sense. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was necessary to have a extended ending. That one, the extended ending is not as good and a little bit more questionable compared to the original ending, but for the most part, in terms of its overall plot with its controversial ending, I have to give it a 10 out of 10. The plot is one of the strongest plots I've seen in a series. You definitely have to admit that. Whether you agree with the ending or not, the ending itself still held a lot of good points and good wrap-up points for the story. It's just one of those things that it's a personal preference in terms of whether you like the ending, whether it followed your personal ideals, whether it followed what you personally wanted to happen. And for a lot of people, that wasn't the case. But to say that the plot overall is not a masterpiece is idiotic. Next is characters. Attack on Titan has a great cast of characters. Starting off with one of the greatest protagonists of all time, Eren Yeager, and some of the greater side characters you'll see. Mikasa is a very strong female lead who, in my opinion, is one of the best out there, especially for a shonen series, in terms of how her story plays into the overall themes of Attack on Titan. Armin, also very relevant in terms of his, not really side character, because he's kind of like the deuteragonist, and how his dichotomy and how his personal ideals conflict with Eren Yeager in that entire story. And obviously we got fan favorite Levi, a badass, a fan favorite in literally every single medium. He's one of those characters that definitely transcend the series, and it doesn't really stop there. We got Erwin, one of the greatest leaders you'll see in the series. We got Hanji, a scientist who goes through a lot at her emotional end, of course, and other characters that are also pretty controversial, who are also pretty good in their own right, with Gavi, with Reiner, with Jean. There's really not copies of character. They have their own story, how it translates into the human experience, and how their character develops from start to finish is absolutely amazing. All of them get their shine. It doesn't really matter what type of character they are. They all get their whole plot completely finished. I'd even mention people like Historia, who definitely change and develop into an amazing character in her own right. So I will say Attack on Titan has a fantastic cast of characters. Personally, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Next, we're going to be talking about the world building of Attack on Titan. Now, Attack on Titan, in terms of its world, is not the largest in terms of scale when we're talking about geography. It really focuses on 2 primary locations. Now, of course, with the ending of the story, it really goes throughout the entire world, as the entire world is basically affected of what happens with the rumbling, but it's not a focal point. The other parts of the world is not a focal point. The focal points are definitely Paradise Island and Marley. As we delve into Paradise Island, primarily talking about the structure of the island, how there's different walls, different occupations, different ways to live in the island, of course, different jobs, different ranks. You can choose to become a military policeman, but you can choose to be a scout, or you can choose to be in the garrison regiment. There's a lot of different things you can do for the story, of course. Not only that, in terms of the way they jump around time and the historical factor in Attack on Titan, how largely that plays for the story is also very well done. As we dive into different historical parts and how that plays into a lot of the characters' decisions, how that plays into what happens at the end of the story. Everything plays perfectly within each other, which makes Attack on Titan such a great story. And personally, I would have Attack on Titan's world building and their focus on the historical elements of the story an 8 out of 10. Next is the themes of the story for Attack on Titan. Now, the themes is one of Attack on Titan's greatest strong points. They have a lot of great themes, a lot of characters who have their own personal roles and themes in the story. The ones I'm going to focus on in this video is the cycle of hatred and the concept of good and evil. The cycle of hatred and the cycle of violence is something that's even prevalent in our world today, where people are constantly in a cycle of violence. No matter who takes into power, no matter what happens to the government, they're constantly in a state where people are suffering, people are getting killed, and all that bad stuff. I'm sure a lot of people have heard that hatred only brings more hatred. Someone who wants revenge gets their revenge, and then a person close to them wants revenge on that person, and the cycle will continue. This is a story that definitely plays into that cycle of hatred. What potential ways and drastic measures and sacrifice you would have to do as an individual to end that hatred itself, to end that cycle of revenge. Also, the concept of good and evil is a crucial point as well, especially considering Eren Yeager, who starts out as a good guy. He starts out as the protagonist, ends the story as the antagonist, the guy that everybody is against, the evil guy, quote unquote. When it comes down to situations like this, with Paradise Island going through what they went through and Marley going through what they went through, we definitely see that there's really no good and evil in terms of war, in terms of this type of outright violence and hatred in the world. Gabby is a perfect example as a character who's very similar to Eren Yeager, but her circumstance stems from Marley's perspective and how she hated the Island Devils, how she hated the Eldians for what they did, which is hand in hand exactly what Eren Yeager was like at the beginning of the story after what the Marleyans did, after what Reiner, Annie, Bertold, and what they did to Paradise Island. You can see the concept of good and evil being blurred, as both of them have a right to be angry, and both of them could be seen as the good guys or the evil guys based on the perspective of the story. Overall, I would say the themes of the story is a strong point for sure. That's why I have this a 10 out of 10. Last but not least is the art of Attack on Titan, and the art is gritty, but it plays into itself very well, especially considering the violence and the dramatic situations that happen in Attack on Titan. A lot of people like the art, and for me, I think the art is very well done, and for the most part, pretty consistent throughout the manga. I would give the art an 8 out of 10. So those are all my ratings in terms of the 5 categories that we're judging in today's video. If I had to do an average, this will determine its overall rating, just like how I'm going to do for every series I'll be talking about. Attack on Titan's overall rating after I tally everything up is, drumroll please, a 9 out of 10. And if you don't know my scale, 1 is absolute garbage, 5 is mid-average series, and 10 is perfection. Unfortunately, Attack on Titan does not hit the perfection point, even though it is my favorite series of all time. But 9 out of 10 is absolute greatness. It just falls short. Maybe if it had a better ending, maybe if it had better world building, better art, it could have been a 10 out of 10. But for what it is, it's still amazing. It's still one of the top tier series in all of anime and manga, and a 9 out of 10 is pretty fire if I say so myself. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, let me know your critiques, let me know your personal ratings in the comment section below. We will be back next Friday to do another series, of course. Let me know your suggestions for another series in the comment section as well. Those potentially could be a future video. So you guys have a good one, take care, and peace.